Welcome to this Two Tokens podcast about renewable energy certificates and the tokenization of these renewable energy certificates. With me today, my name is Erich Schnoeckel, by the way. With me today are Jan Dijkstra from Greenivity and Robert van Mölken of ExoBlock. And together we are part of the working group at Two Tokens researching this topic and these tokens. So let me start to talk to Jan about let's first define the renewable energy certificates and how you tokenize that. Let's start with the renewable energy certificates. Can you explain a little bit what they are and perhaps tell a little bit about yourself before you start doing that?
Yeah, very good. My name is Jan Dijkstra. I'm sitting here on behalf of Greenivity, as you mentioned. Greenivity is kind of a stealth startup focused at AI-powered measuring, verification, and monitoring of CO2 emissions in order to support companies with their strategic, I would say, carbon reduction initiatives. Coming back to your question on the energy certificates, this is a concept which is actually not new, but already for many years in the US and in Europe, and actually started after the Kyoto Protocol to stimulate the usage of, first of all, renewable energy. And secondly, in order to create a structure around it in order to measure and to make certain that it is also renewable energy, so green energy.
Yeah, so it adds the trust to the green energy. Okay. Then Robert, tell us a bit about ExoBlock and how you got involved into this working group.
Yeah, so my name is Robert van Mölken. I'm representing ExoBlock. We are a company that creates sustainable impact solutions, but also provided as services. We are mostly a really IT-driven company that implements IoT in combination with blockchain, enterprise blockchain. And we do that for agriculture side mostly now, for the track and trace of carbon emissions and taking those offsets and become carbon neutral. With the implementation of carbon neutral certificates and the track and trace of that on product packages. Okay. So it's how I get involved in this is that I'm very interested in having those certificates there, the authenticity, not from paper, but we are now to this digital tokenization and on that side. And I already been with two tokens, following Two Tokens already a while. And then this opportunity came for becoming part of this expert group to really research the opportunities here. What's there on this solar certificates, and also what we see in the market, US, Europe, and starting getting involved and really
Africa, I suppose,
and Africa is also an emerging country, of course. How we can, I think, maybe look at what standards are there and what we can do as a group.
So one important word that I heard you say was solar. So that's basically how it started, right? We had this energy token working group within Two Tokens where we are researching energy communities and how you can share and trade energy in a transparent and fast way. One of the byproducts of that energy working group was that these carbon credits, derived carbon credits from the solar industry, and then we go to the SRECs, the solar-based renewable energy certificates, which with the tokenization of the solar energy and the crypto anchors that we use to prove that the energy is there and also is not based on fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. That's the basis actually for these SRECs, right, Jan?
In a way, yes. I think the interesting of and coming back to SREC is actually a solar renewable energy credit. So you got them from wind, you got them different non-fossil based fuels or energy sources. It's true. The interesting thing of an SREC is that, or a REC in general, which by the way in Europe are called GOES, Guarantee of Origin. So it's not everywhere the same wording, title, definition, so to speak. So we got a lot of global differences in this.
But
Even within the European...
Are they the same? Exactly the same? Or is they're gradually different?
There are, in terms of the carrying source, there's no difference, but the way the attributes or the metadata which could be added to it could be different.
Okay.
Slightly different. The interesting thing of these certificates is that they represent 1 megawatt of 1 megawatt hour of electricity, whereas which you can sell or can give back to the grid for us through offsets. But at the same time, the certificate in itself also has a value. So it's a separate value. So we're talking about two values. And that's the interesting thing of this this product. This product is not tokenized yet. More people are looking at it. But there is a market. There's a trading market. There are verification entities. There are associations. There are national, I would say, associations who kind of discuss these topics. They're developing this. So it's not new at all. But there are a couple of things which is interesting. It is a centralized market. It is non-tokenized. And actually it has a sustainable value. And I think that's quite interesting to look at this. And that's also the reason why we think this, for this working group, it's an interesting topic to discuss and to research.
So what does that mean? It's a central market at the moment. Will be decentralized in the future, you think? That's what's going to happen?
Yeah, that should. I think now what you see in, for example, in Europe is that it's very centralized. There's like a centralized exchange. There's an organization that does the certificate authority. You have really a stock market kind of platform that there's there, but it falls under a centralized group, and it's bound to like be able to disrupt, like becoming decentralized, going to decentralized exchanges or something like that to. Would make I think the pricing more interesting, because now it's centralized. You have one organization that everything, and there's the power is there. And if we look at the power of the many, it would be more interesting to go to decentralized way, and we can do that with tokenization.
So, but who are these current suppliers or providers of these credits to the market, and who are the buyers, the people that want to offset their carbon footprint?
So it's really currently it's a B2B thing. Yeah. So because we're talking about 1 megawatt hour, so it's large amounts of that you need to generate. So it's like wind parks or solar parks, or like these kind of big organizations. It can be like Shell or Vattenfall, like what they build out. And those that can exchange it. So it goes to brokers, it goes to a centralized exchange. It's not for consumers right now, but in the future, if we go to a decentralized way, you need to think about communities, energy communities.
But consumers in the sense that you, Jan, for instance, with your solar panels on your roof, provide, I would say, small pieces of these possible offset carbon.
Yeah, I agree, and that is very small. Yeah. So that only makes sense if you bundle it with a number of similar roof owners, so to speak, because the additional value of getting of the unbundling of the certificate and getting value is, of course, small. Obviously, being part of this supports also everybody in more greening the planet. So I think that is something which is always interesting. But what is also interesting, I think, is also if you develop this concept and look deeper into it, how you could use this for in countries like Africa, where there's a lot of sun, and where you could create solar parks or complete communities, which obviously will produce much more energy than we would do in the Netherlands on a roof.
But these communities in Africa, for instance, in these sunny areas where you is that then a thing that can be fractionalized in a sense that could be a homeowner, or should it be a village or a community or a business park that is creating this? Where is, so what defines surprise at this moment, and when is it interesting for somebody to be part of this system?
I think it is interestingly part of the system because it gives different sources of revenues and use. Mm-hmm. So you can use your own electricity, which might be probably not as good today without a solar park.
Right.
Secondly, you could sell that electricity by delivering it back to the grid, or other structures you use, if not a grid, through battery in the future, and other developments which might arise, which we're not even aware of yet. But people are already looking at it. And of course, the certificate itself. Yeah. Also, because it is a kind of, the third thing is, it is a known thing how people deal in the markets. Brokers trade this. Mm-hmm. In some countries, like for example in the US, producers need to have a certain percentage renewable.
Yeah.
And they can do that by buying these certificates.
Right.
And therefore there is a market. So it's also people who want to invest in solar parks somewhere else see this also as an additional revenue stream, and therefore I would say development of such a venture might be quicker coming off the ground.
Yeah, what you're saying, they buy these certificates, and I think that, but that's my opinion, I think that once you start tokenizing these and these certificates and adding proof to it, is the value of these things going to be more than all these shady certificates that are based on, I would say, less traceable sources?
Yeah, you see a difference in when you have a more quality kind of organization behind it. We've seen values, for example, in Europe for this, the guarantees of origin, that's around 40, if we do dollars, $40 per certificate. Mm-hmm. Where you see in other countries, like with the SRECs, that's more in Africa side, they are sub $1. And so that's the difference, where in the US it differs a lot. It's between $7 and $400. So it depends on in the US in which state you are. In Europe it's a little bit centralized, so it's like stable. But in Africa it's again really regional.
And what's the cause of that price difference then?
Maybe markets, like maybe equity side, maybe maturity. Yeah, it's demand and yeah.
Okay, so it can be $400 today. It can be less than $1 tomorrow. Yeah. That's a supply and demand.
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah. Yeah,
simple as that.
Yeah, because there in the states, we've seen things like in states like Pennsylvania. Beginning of the year, it was like $40 per certificate also, but now it was like 33, and where in other states like Ohio, the price went up. So it's like, but yeah, here, so I think that's maybe the amount of certificates available versus like how many. Yeah, the industries want.
And of course, the volatility of the weather itself.
Yeah.
Okay, and the system itself. So if you have a central system with, I heard you talk about some middlemen in between there, brokers, etc., etc. Is that also causing a higher price on these certificates, or is that?
Well,
and would next question is, would tokenization bring these prices down, or is the trust?
There obviously there is trust. But of course, when you mint it and you put it on a chain, it's immutable. So if the calibration is good, then that should give much more trust to start with. But I think in terms also from the cost perspective, using smart contracts, it could be much cheaper to run this in this ecosystem.
Yeah, but will the price go down?
Will the price go down,
or will the trust that's added by the blockchain and by the decentralized ledger technology, would that be a reason why people value these certificates more?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that remains to be seen, to be honest.
We're so early stages right now, yeah.
Yeah.
And is that part of your research? You're looking at that at the moment in these pricing components as well, or is that more the way these certificates are registered and how you can make sure that the trust is in the system?
Yeah, we looked at the market structure, what we all talked about, those three continents. We looked at the pricing. We don't know how it will be there when it's decentralized, because now it's really a B2B thing. So it's really controlled by the central organization, the EEX, where you have a centralized exchange, you have a centralized certificate authority, and that should be disrupted. If I look at biocertificates, every European country has their laboratory that can do biocertification. The official things that should also happen here, and then of course you get different prices, because then you need to look at taxes, VAT, availability. You get a lot of other turning parts.
Yeah.
And but we have to see how it goes. But if you make it decentralized, you make it more accessible. With blockchain, we make more trust. We can even put the certificates on the blockchain. We know where it really comes from. If we have calibrated sensors, there's a lot of things that makes it so much more valuable. So you are talking about going the price down. I would hope that the price goes up
because of the trust.
Because of the trust.
Because of the trust, and
Yes.
and also the system will mature, and these shady people that now offer carbon credits that are not really traceable,
greenwashing
the greenwashing will be less in the system.
Hopefully, yes.
Hopefully, yes. But on the other hand, it's also probably easier to differentiate between the integrity of the credit and therefore differentiate in the pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think interesting outlook for some of these things. That's also what we looked at. What's the future of SRECs? What's the future of the guarantees of origin? And there's a lot of happening within the EU, within regulations.
Sure. Of course, people are already checking to differentiate between the guarantee in Europe, like the GOES, the guarantee of origin, between the different energy sources. So hydro, solar, even nuclear, etc., to get dedicated pricing on those source of certificates.
But now it's like 3 continents, 3 different, taxonomies.
Yeah.
There's there's no cross-border kind of trading between all these kind of things. And if you have SRECs, you can't go to Europe and trade them. Maybe there's a lot of opportunities, and also for us as a working group to come up with something that's over it. Maybe it can be in combination with UN climate change framework. I don't know. I think there's a lot of things. They're certainly interesting from our point of view.
And especially what we haven't seen so much is, compared to the US, there's a kind of a mandatory threshold of being renewable, and that's measured through using these certificates. We've seen that less here. Also, for example, the ETS is up for revision in 2026, 2027. So people are,
which now is a closed system,
which is more on which is actually on a carbon compliance, carbon credits.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you look at the renewables, renewable energy, it's kind of the other side of the coin.
Right.
And there are, because of the difference in splitting a value for the certificate versus the electricity generated, there are things you can do with that.
And we're going to talk about this the rest of the afternoon here in het Provinciehuis Zuid-Holland, hosted by the Province of Zuid-Holland, in the expert session that Two Tokens host this afternoon. And also this is a session that is not open for everyone, only invited people. And in the working group, except for you two, we have Centiglo, who's looking at from the, I would say, the financial side of things, how you reconciliate on the financial side these trading of carbon emissions. We've got Green Energy for All and 180 Works and Fact Zero also participating, and we have legal support from a lot of different lawyers, which all cover different parts of the ecosystem, the different jurisdictions that we want to be actively in the future. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, Jan.
Thank you.
And this podcast, please like it when you see it, and follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, and all the other socials. Thank you very much for listening and watching.
That was it for today's podcast. Thank you for listening in, and please subscribe so you don't miss out on our upcoming episodes. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find our contact details at www.twotokens.org.